Okay, welcome back. In this session, we are going to go through and start getting our player ship to move around on the stage. So let's just go ahead and get started. I'm going to go up here into my layers in my actions layer, F9 to open up the actions. And the first thing that we're going to do in here is put a stop command so that the timeline stops. Even though we're telling this to go to and stop, it's always good to put a stop in here. Now, to move our character around, we're going to be using the keyboard arrow keys or the AWSD to move our characters around. And we're going to use the space bar to have our ship fire the bullets. So we'll get into firing the bullets later on. But for now, we're going to go through and set up all the variables that we need, the event listeners, and get into the game loop function and just basically get our character moving around the stage the way that we want him to. So starting out, I'm going to put a comment in. These are going to be our keyboard variables. And in here we have a variable right key. It's going to be our boolean, and it is going to equal false to start with. And I'm just going to copy this line, paste it, and we're going to change right key to left key. And let's paste it a couple more times. We have our up key and our down key. And one more. And we're going to create this as a space key for the space bar. Now, we also want our ship to move around and to allow us to change the speed of our ship at any point. It's always good to have a variable out here. So I'm going to call that my speed. And this is just going to be a number, and we're going to set it to 5. So let's go ahead and put a comment up here. Ship speed. And then coming through, we're going to add some event listeners. So stage, add event listener. And this is going to be a keyboard event for the key down. And I'm going to call the function watch keys. We're going to create another one here, add event listener. This is also going to be a keyboard event, and I'm going to use the key up event, and I'm going to call reset keys. And last one here, and I'm actually going to set this to my ship, add the event listener. And this is going to be an event, and it's going to be the enter frame event. I'm going to call my game loop function. So next we're going to start creating these functions. So our first function is going to be our game loop. And I'm going to use EVT, and this is just going to be an event colon void, because I'm not going to return anything from this. Open curly bracket, closing curly brackets. Now notice when you're typing things out, a lot of times they'll put these import statements above here. Okay, so that is common to Flash CS5, 5.5, so on. If you're using Flash CS4, this is fine. We're doing all this in ActionScript 3. Now, if you have CS4, remember that if you open a curly brace, you need to close a curly brace. Flash CS5 and above does that automatically for you. So that Flash CS4 does not. So if you're doing it in CS4, make sure that you're going through and putting these curly braces in. And a lot of times it's always good to come after these ending curly braces and say end function game loop, so you know what the curly brace is there for, because they're going to be adding a lot of curly braces in here. So going within our game loop function, you scroll down here, add some space so it doesn't go off screen too often. I'm going to use a condition. So a condition is basically an if statement. And if my ship X, so what we want to do is take our ship and move it around the stage. Remember, X value is going left to right. Okay, the Y value going top to bottom. Well, I don't want my ship to go off the stage or up into the HUD at any point. So what is the X values that we want? So just coming into the properties, looking at its X value, and I always like to round the numbers down. So I don't like using 0.65 or anything like that. So at my starting point, I have 20 on the X. What is his final position where I want him to go off to the right? How far do I want him to go? I don't want him to go way off the stage or anywhere close to the stage edge. So I'm going to go about 680. Okay. So coming back, my ship X, as long as that is less than 20, so if my ship X is less than 20, I want my ship.x to equal 20. That's going to keep them on the stage at that point. After this, else if my ship.x is greater than 680, I want my ship.x to equal 680. So that's going to keep them on the stage in that X position. It's not going to allow them to go off the stage to the left. It's not going to allow them to go off the stage to the right. So I'm going to copy this line of code. So let's just copy that, go right after it, and change it to the Y value. Ship.Y instead of X. So we're going to start checking the tops and bottoms. Now again, I don't want my ship to come up here and enter that HUD. So I'm going to stay down a little bit. And what's its value down here? It's about 30. Okay, well actually we want the Y value, so I'm going to say 105. I don't want them to go any higher than 105, and I don't want them to go any lower than 555. So if he is less than 105, make him equal to 105. If any higher than 555, make him equal 555. Now my stage size out here, I'm using 800 by 600 on the stage. Okay, so if you're using a different stage size, then you would need to adjust those numbers as well. Okay, so next coming down, we need to check his speed, start setting up his speed for the ship. And this is where we're going to use those variables from up above. So if my right key, and since these are a value of true or false, we only have to check for that true value. So I really don't need to come out and say if right key double equal signs true. So in condition, it's always checking for the default value of true. Okay. Now, if it's false, then we need to check for that false value. If it's true, we don't need to check for it. Well, all we got to do is say if right key, because it knows it's true or false since it's a Boolean or Boolean, or however you want to pronounce that. So in here, I'm going to say my ship dot x plus equal my speed. So we're going to use this variable, my speed, to set that value. So let's just copy that. Let's come down and paste that. So my speed. Else if left key and I'm not even going to use the else. I'm just going to say if left key. That way we can go at angles as well. Just going to copy this line up above, paste it in, and say minus equals. So if it's the right key, we're going to take our ship and move him out to the right, doing a plus. Remember that in Flash, if we go and show our rulers, 0 starts on the left-hand side and increases as it goes out. Y value starts at the top and increases as we go down. Okay. So I'm going to copy these lines. Let's go right after it. Paste. Change right key to up key. Change the X value to Y value. And again, on the up key, we want minus equals. So minus to go up, plus to go down. So on the down key, we want plus equals. So we're just changing a couple of values. Let's remember to change that to the Y. Okay, so our game loop is finished. So next we need to go in and start creating the functions for the watch keys. Watch keys, again, that's going to be an event. This is going to be a keyboard event. Void, because I'm not going to return anything back. And starting out in here, if the EVT. Now, a lot of times you'll see people use event in here. I like using EVT. Some programmers just like using the letter E. Whatever you put in here at the beginning, we're going to use in our condition. So I used EVT dot key code double equal sign keyboard dot up. So we're going to look for that up key first. Or double pipelines, that is the shift plus the key just above the enter key that looks like two little slashes, and it has that slash going across it. And I think that's the backslash. Okay, or actually that's the forward slash. So just using that shift key, we're going to use the EVT dot key code equals 87. 87 is the representation of the W key. So if it's either the keyboard up key, which is the up arrow key, or the W key gets pressed, I'm going to tell my key up to equal true. I'm going to copy these 3 lines. Let's go right after it and change this to the down key. Now remember, up and down, right and left are all going to be caps. And we're going to change this to 83 instead of 87. This represents the S. Okay. And we're going to change up to down key. Let's go ahead and go right after this one. Let's paste. Let's change this to our right key. Right key and 68. And change this to our right key. One couple more. Let's go ahead and paste. Let's put some space in here. Let's change this to left. Left equals 65. So that'll be our A key. And let's go left over here. And let's scroll down one more. And this is going to be our space key. And we're just going to get rid of the rest of this. And space needs to be all caps. And let's change this to our space key. So that's the end of that function. I'm just going to copy this function all the way down. Remember to include those curly braces. Let's go right after it. And let's change watch to reset. Reset those keys and change the values from true to false on all of our keys. So this is our key up event. So when we release, those keys go back to false. Okay, so we got our reset keys, the up key, up false, down false, right false, left false, and the space is false. On the watch keys, they are set to true. That's when we press the down on those keys. So remember, we got the key down event, key up event. The enter frame event, again, loops through whatever code is in here based on the frames per second that we use, that frame rate. I have 24 frames per second, so it's going to be checking this code inside this game loop 24 times within 1 second. So let's compile, check for any syntax errors. You're not getting any. Let's go ahead and test our game. So Control Enter Test. Click on Play. And it looks like we got an error out here. Let's see what we got. Reset keys. Let's make sure we got these spelled exactly the same. Let's copy that. Let's paste that in there. Okay, let's see, what do we got here? Looks like a little period right here. So let's go ahead and test this. No errors coming through. Let's move our character. You can see I can't move up into the HUD, so that's good. Let's go off to the right hand side. I can't go off on the right. Let's go down to the bottom. And I'm just using my arrow keys right now. Let's go all the way back. Okay, can't go off the stage. Let's hold the WASD. Okay, So you can see we can even go at angles depending on which keys are being pressed. So we can move all the way around our stage. Okay. Now going through this, I will not be editing any of these videos except if I cough or uh, have a phone call, something like that. So the mistakes I make, you will see those are common errors. Okay. So you guys can go through and see that, programming typos do occur. Okay. So with that, I think that brings this lesson to an end. And in our next lesson, we'll go through and get our ship firing the lasers out. So we'll see you in the next lesson.